Hello and welcome to Get Into Flow, the mindset shifting podcast. I am so honored to welcome today someone who I met recently, but there was like an instant connection, and that's why we're here today. We met through our coaching mastery program. We are both going for another certification to level up our skills. We are both coaches. I will invite her to introduce herself, but I just wanted to give a little short intro because here is Danielle Dam, Coach Dam. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I love how this came about. We were partnered up randomly, and that's why I love this program too, because they partner you up with people within the program to do the practices and to actually go through these coaching experiences together. And from that, we started chatting and we were like, let's do a podcast. I think Danielle, you were like, I want to do your podcast. And I was like, great, let's do it. And here we are.
Yeah, it's almost serendipitous. It's once we got on our breakout room, I just instantly felt connected and like I already knew you. So this
Yeah.
is perfect. And then here we
Yes.
are. Yeah.
And
And you
here we
mentioned the
are.
podcast and I started following you and I was like looking at all your stuff. It's amazing. Super inspiring.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Oh,
So we are in the same world.
yes.
Um, we are here to help women to really help them break free from whatever's holding them back. And I'll invite Danielle to speak a little bit more about what she does. But today, what we want to talk about is ourselves as coaches and why we also need coaches. So, Dan,
Totally.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
totally. And I think the fact that you and I are both in the ICM program
Mhm.
speaks to this. You know, the funny story, when I joined the ICM program, I didn't realize I could get continuing education credits for my ICF certification. So I joined just for the sake of being coached and being like taken through an entire transformational process. And it wasn't until after I joined that I was like, oh, check this out. Now it goes towards my certification. This is amazing. So yeah, that I think that speaks to once you're a coach, you realize how important it is to get different perspectives into what you're experiencing. Oftentimes, when we are in the thick of it, it's so hard to see potential opportunities in front of us when we're inundated with the issues. We're consumed by the problem. And an outside perspective, different tools to use and implement so that you can then improve and become a more embodied coach. I mean, I think just that experience alone, it's needed, right? Coaches are human. We're not robots. We go through the same issues that other people go through. We fall into the pattern of going through the path of least resistance and falling into old patterns. And so it's always fun and good to have someone to like bring you back and do like a little check-in. How about
Yeah,
you, Sabrina?
I agree. That's why I joined as well in terms of just like getting more tools, being held accountable as well. I felt like I was at a point in my coaching journey and in my own life journey where I needed to learn more and I needed to be guided in a certain way. Being hyper independent, and I feel like you are too, we tend to take on things and want to do everything ourselves. So, yes, like at the beginning of this journey, even in my healing journey, it's like I got all the books, I listened to all the podcasts. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this on my own. And then you can go up into a certain point, I feel.
Mm,
And then there is something really beautiful in having an outside perspective to help guide you and to help you see things differently because we only know what we know. So if
mhm.
you're looking for change, how can you expect to be able to have that lasting transformation if it's totally new, if you've never done it before? And so I like to look at it that way of like, if I'm looking to experience something new, who has done it before? Who can help me to just broaden my perspective and see things from a different point of view to help me get there?
Yeah.
And definitely you bring up the fact that we're still human as coaches. I think there's a misconception that, once you do this work, it's done. Oh no.
Oh my God,
Oh no,
so true.
friends.
Yeah, so true, right? Like, oh, I just had this major breakthrough. I'm healed. I'm completely elevated. I'm good. I don't need a coach, right?
Yeah,
Because I had one breakthrough. When in
right.
reality, life is a series of breakthroughs, right? A series of
Yes.
breakthroughs. So
Yes.
yeah, but I totally agree with you on that, 100%.
Yeah.
Another thing I was just thinking about as you were speaking, the concept of, especially as you and I entered this new journey with ICM, the concept of needing to unlearn to be able
Mm,
to see. Because through my coaching background, I went through several different certifications through the ICF, and going into this new program, a lot of the things that I had learned, if I'm being honest, I approached this initial program or this ICM program with like a sense of, I know what I'm doing. Like, I
mhm,
got this. This is going
mhm.
to be a review. It was so much more than that. I had to literally check my ego at the door and just not worry about being right and just being open to receiving whatever was coming to
Yeah.
me. And I mean, that alone was difficult, right?
Oh
That
yeah.
alone was an eye-opening experience to approach a situation with without any masks, completely bare beginner's heart.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Because I went into it half and half. So half of me was like, oh, I've been coaching, like I got this. And the
Mm,
other half is like, oh, I can always learn new things and new tools. And that's what I was excited about, new
yeah,
modalities. But
yeah,
then in the beginning, because obviously with every program, especially this one, like it's so well built, by the way. I'm just gonna say that. Like the
yeah,
syllabus, the curriculum, like I really feel like I'm back in school, like in university, where I'm supported every step of the way. And in
yeah,
the beginning, obviously, like they ease you in. So for me, the beginning was a lot of review. So it was a
yeah.
bit of a like ego boost of like, yeah, I've been doing the right things. And then we got to a point where it was like, whoa,
Yeah,
what's this
exactly.
deeper work that I've never tackled for myself before? And then this is how I can use it with my clients, like mind blown. And then
Oh, totally.
you, it was like a check your ego at the door because now you are a student again. Like
Yeah,
you need to experience this for yourself. And
yeah.
even in the ICM promo, it's kind of like, you do the inner work for you before you do it for your clients, which I am totally a fan of. I believe in that, but I didn't realize to what point that inner work was going to affect me in the best way possible. But
Oh, 100%. I mean, you and I were just talking about last week's tools that we learned. And, as I mentioned to you before we got on the recording, I'm pretty stoic and I can hold my own. And, Enneagram 8, the challenger stoic, like not vulnerable whatsoever. But this tool just completely peeled everything out. And I broke down during my coaching practice, and so much came up, and I was just like, holy cow, I didn't even realize that I was holding so much in here. It's amazing. And not only that, but like I've been holding all these emotions inside and living my life while holding on to that. Imagine the possibilities now that I'm learning to release it.
oh,
What else can come of it? So my
yeah.
mind was completely blown. So
Oh,
when we
absolutely.
talk about like coaches needing coaches, this is it,
Yeah.
right? Like I've been a coach for like on my own for 4 years. Never had I experienced anything like this.
Mhm.
It was
Oh,
amazing.
yeah. It's absolutely amazing. It's incredible to know that there are these tools out there that can even get you to this point after so long. And even what you mentioned of like not even realizing that all this was within you, because there's one step of awareness, like, okay, like I know that I have emotions to release and whatnot, but you thought you were good. Me too. Like I thought I was
Yeah.
good. And then, as I mentioned, like it cracked me open, and then I'm crying watching Inside Out 2, the movie. And I'm like, what? Since then, I'm crying at everything, commercials and like watching videos on social media. Like it has a way, these tools that we're learning and just this work in general has a way of getting so deep within you that you're able to really get to that lasting healing. So it's not surface level, which I feel like some things are, and we're going to talk about the coaching industry, which might be a little controversial, but let's go into it because I'm going to say something. There are a lot of coaches out there, and
Hmm.
it's getting very saturated
Hmm.
in terms of anybody can become a coach. Let's
Hmm.
be honest. Like anybody can become a coach. There's no like laws, there's no regulations. So as a result, there are a lot of coaches out there who are maybe not approaching coaching in a way that's going to help their clients with this lasting transformation. And that's why the ICM program appealed to me so much because I saw the value in it. And
Hmm.
even just now testing the tools for ourselves, it's kind of like we see how effective it can be.
Yeah.
And why isn't everybody doing this? Because this is how it's going to really work if we could
Yeah.
put it that way.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's funny that you mentioned that about the coaching industry. It's coaching is one thing, consulting is another. And I think a lot of the coaches who call themselves coaches without having gone through the proper training, um, are actually consultants, which is great
Mm.
because they
Yeah.
actually give you a blueprint of exactly what it is that you want to achieve without having to dive deeper into self. And
Hmm.
some people want that. And I think that having that option is great. Um,
Yeah.
but when you call yourself a coach, it's also understanding that you're diving deeper beyond the problem. You're not just focusing on the problem that the person is trying to solve. We're not fixing or working on the what, we're elevating the who. So
Well
that,
said.
yeah. So once we elevate the who, any problem that arises, that person will be able to handle it with the tools that they've been given through the coaching experience.
Mhm.
So yeah, you mentioned something, you crying with
Yeah.
all of the emotions coming up. Do you think that this could be because you've been in a state of hyper independence and now opening that part of you up and allowing yourself to be more vulnerable and experience all the emotions without fear of lacking safety? Do you think that could be something that's happening?
Definitely. I think that is related. It's funny because, you mentioned being very stoic. I was as well until I started the healing work 6 years ago, I would say. And
Mhm.
at that time, I had learned to release my emotions. I had learned to be more vulnerable and to, remove the masks and to just allow myself to express. And here's where we get caught in the trap. I was like, okay, well, I'm done. I know how to do that.
Yeah.
And then here
Yeah.
comes this new tool recently where I'm like, oh, there's still more. There's still more
Yeah.
to let out. And it's funny when I was experiencing, and this just happened like 2 days ago, so it's still fresh. I was watching again Inside Out 2, which all animation movies make me cry anyways. They're so like touching, but
Yeah.
even more this movie because it's related to what we do, right? It's
Yeah.
related to emotions and all that. And I found myself still trying to hold back my tears. I was alone. There was no one around, no one to judge me, but I still found myself like trying to repress the emotions that were coming up. And because now we're doing this work and I have this awareness, I actively just let myself be. And I was like, what happens if I just release it? What
Mm.
happens if I go into the ugly cry? And it's okay to
Yeah.
go into the ugly cry. And it was all stuck here. And then I finally, I think after like the third time, it was like, okay, I'll just cry it out. But there's still this resistance within me because when I was younger, I was told to stop crying.
Yeah.
I was told to not show emotions, or I was not modeled the behavior of how to express yourself in a healthy way. And even watching movies with other people growing up, and I would want to express myself, I would always be embarrassed if I was like crying, even if it was with like my mom, who cries all the time at movies, and I would be embarrassed to cry with her or to show that emotion. So
Yeah. Yeah.
there's still healing work that needs to be done. But there's that level of acceptance, which is something that we're learning now. It's like you need to get to that level of acceptance and just allow it to happen and
Yeah.
not even have a reason why the logical mind tries to like figure out, okay, why is this happening? What does this mean and whatnot? And sometimes you don't need to go there. Sometimes you just need to like allow yourself to be in your feelings,
Yeah.
to just let it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that. We were prior to joining the program, um, we had done some somatic work, and I am a full disclosure, I am horrible with somatic work. I am so in my head that anytime someone's like, "Where do you feel it in your body?" I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm thinking it. I'm not feeling it in my body. What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Um, but again, one of the reasons why I joined the program, but as she was taking us through the somatic practice, which I've never done before, and she had us dance. And in the middle of the dancing, I just started bawling. And it was like a happy song. And I started crying. And then I called her and I was like, listen, I think that like I have some trauma going on. Like I just started crying. And she was like, no, 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 that's totally normal. It's just the way that your body's releasing energy.
Mhm.
Which to me was just like, oh, okay. And it's also funny how sometimes we do need to hear someone else say, hey, that's totally normal. It's
Yeah.
okay that you're doing that.
Yeah.
And that is so reassuring, you
It
know?
is. It
Yeah.
is. Just that validation or that acceptance, and also being seen and being heard and being like, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, this experience has been amazing. And I really in terms of like coaches getting further coaching, I don't if any of your audiences are listening who are thinking of going into coaching or who are currently doing coaching and haven't done any kind of certification, it is such an amazing experience. More and yes, do it so that you can use these tools for your clients, but do it so that you can experience the transformation, so you can experience the inner shift that happens
Yeah.
because it's hard for you and I, Sabrina, to sit here and speak to the internal experience that we go through because there is really you can't put words to it. It
Yeah.
is so beyond verbal expression. It is, again, in a somatic level and
Mhm.
unconscious level that you experience these changes. And I really hope that this encourages people to go and get a certification, whether it be with ICM or any other
Mhm.
certification out there. It's just really the one of the best things that they could do for themselves. Like it's not even
Yeah.
about the clients, but for yourself so that you can experience that transformation.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And it's something that I didn't expect. As I mentioned, like, yes, we're doing the inner work, but I didn't expect for myself to be diving this deep for me.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because we also need to experience it for ourselves to then be able to do that for our clients or guide our clients through that journey. Um, but this also speaks to something that you had mentioned in the intake form, which was not being scared of doing that transformation work or thinking that it's like it's overwhelming. So if we look at this transformation work, yes, the way that we're speaking, like it's really touching us deep and we're, feeling all the feels, but there is a way to start step by step, right? Like you don't just dive in headfirst into the deep end. It's like you walk into the pool and you start to like figure out, okay, what's going on here. So maybe if we want to speak to that a little bit of like, how do we start creating this transformation for our clients?
Well, I think ultimately and I think Alyssa mentions talks about this too, but I think the easiest point of access is mindset, right? I think once you go into mindset and kind of start playing around with how someone thinks of a circumstance or, any kind of internal block that they may be experiencing and start reframing those, I think that's the easiest point of entry. Um, but here's the thing, with every level that you work with a client, there's going to be a boiling point where the client is going to feel like it's too much for them to handle. Oh, we talked about this at our at certification. So this is
Mhm.
level two, right? So level
Right,
one
right,
is you're unaware of the issues that you have. Level two is you're aware, but you continue doing the patterns that aren't serving you.
right.
When you get to this level two, this is typically where most clients either freak out
Mhm.
or and give up, or they start shedding their old skin and they start like you and I crying for no reason because it's almost like a grieving period where you're
Mm.
saying goodbye to your old self and this is years history. right, of self that you are saying thank you but no more to, and that is a grieving process. So unless people are willing to just go past that point, past that boiling point, and then
Yeah.
reach, you know, we'll call it vapor or steam, right? Reach the
Right.
steam. Once you get it to the steam, you're just like, oh my God, like this is like everything clears. And then now you understand, you can see once you remove yourself from that, from the muck, you can
Hmm.
see exactly what is happening. And that is the beautiful point. But it is like the mental work first. And through the mental, you can also do some behavioral stuff to like help solidify it.
Hmm.
Um, but again, like we talked about earlier, it's breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough. It's not just one gigantic aha moment and then you're done. So
Yeah.
it's learning to also celebrate those small breakthroughs, even though they may not seem monumental,
Hmm.
but celebrating them so that person can build some confidence and self-reliance too.
Yeah, it's like getting those small wins to gain momentum to keep going.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. That's so important. And unfortunately, so many people forget to do that because we're so conditioned to focus on the negative. And this is, for primal reasons. It's not that, oh, society made us think of negativity. No, it's like you think negative because there could potentially be a saber-toothed tiger out there trying to eat you. So, yes, err on the side of caution. Imagine the saber-toothed tiger is out there. So that is just how evolutionary psychology just happened, right? Like you
Yeah.
just assume that there's something bad out there so that you're ready to like take action.
Hmm.
Um, but we're no longer living in that type of environment, right?
Right.
And that's where the shift has to happen. But it's funny because and the reason it's no longer like that is because of technology, and technology is advancing so much faster than our own psychology. So we're still trying to catch up to that ability to stay in our parasympathetic nervous system, right? The
Hmm.
relaxed state.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's an adaptation moment. We're simply adapting right now to our current reality.
Yeah. One of the most profound experiences in this program was the identification that like all of these reactions, behaviors, judgments were just there to protect us
Yeah,
and that we no longer need them. Or
yeah,
even more specifically, how has that helped you, right? Like, has that been effective for you? And questioning and being curious.
yeah,
So a lot of the work that we're doing is just kind of like questioning our behaviors, questioning our stories, our limiting beliefs, and saying like, do we really need to keep ourselves safe? Is there a saber-toothed tiger? If there isn't, what else can we do that's different? How can we move past it? How can we not fear something that's not there? And this speaks a lot to anxiety and worry that a lot of us deal with. And again, it came from a good place. Intentionally, we want to be safe. We want to be prepared to handle whatever comes our way. But it gets us stuck in this only looking for what can go wrong and
mm,
not appreciating or just being open to receive what can actually happen. And
yeah.
like, what if it doesn't work out? Well, what if it does? How could we reframe it as that, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's so interesting that you say that because you can then that brings us back to, or not back, but it brings us to another side of applied neuroscience, right? Where you're talking about the reticular activating system,
Yeah,
which then is triggered, it's like the law of attraction. If
yeah,
you're constantly thinking something's going to go wrong, your brain is going to look to prove you're right,
yeah,
right? The brain
absolutely.
is egocentric. So the brain is going to be like, oh, you think something's going to go wrong? Let me just make sure that we find something so that I can make sure that your is fed and you're right, you know? Now,
Hmm.
what if you were to entertain like there's so many possibilities in front of me, I can't wait to explore them.
Yeah,
Like something could go wrong, sure, but then there's a plethora of other options available to me. Like, what could those be? What is that? I'm so curious to find
absolutely.
out.
Yeah,
Like, oh, there's like a menu board of things that could happen, and like, which one's gonna show up? Let's see, and like,
yeah,
as soon as you shift from that emotion of fear to emotion of like excitement and awe, like that in itself can really change your experience.
Hmm.
And that's the other thing too, like the difference between fear and excitement, there is no physiological difference. We experience it physically exactly the same way. So the only thing that changes that experience is how we think. So if we're thinking, I'm scared, your body goes through the same physical
Yeah.
process as it does when you're like, I'm excited, right? So just a simple mindset, and this is why mindset is the easiest one to
Hmm.
tackle.
Hmm.
Simple mindset shift,
Yeah.
shift your experience.
Absolutely. Because it feels the same. And then eventually we can go into feelings and somatic work, but essentially that feeling, and I talk about this all the time too, it's exactly the same. It's how do you interpret it that changes? What are
Mm,
you looking at? What side of it are you looking at it from? Or like, and that's where I agree. Mindset work is so important. It will help you make those initial first steps towards the change that you're looking for.
yeah,
And even if you don't know what that change is, it's just shifting from that negative to that positive without going into toxic positivity or like over affirmations, but it's just kind of like inviting yourself to be curious. Like you were saying, Danielle, like how could we look at this differently? Instead of
yeah,
looking at everything that can go wrong, what could actually go right? Like what's
yeah,
out there for me? Like what could happen? Like
yeah.
even that, both of us get so excited when we talk about it that way. Our bodies change, we have smiles, like the
Yeah,
energy
yeah.
changes. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And going back to like other coaches. So, and I think that a lot of coaches work, whether consultant or coaches, it's always mindset first, right?
Hmm.
That's always the entry point because it's the easiest to tackle, right? A
Right.
reframe is very easy, as long as you're not like as you mentioned, the toxic positivity. It's more of like
Hmm.
a alternate balanced thought, right? Like
Yes.
what's an
I
alternate
love it.
balanced thought, like a possibility that doesn't like make it too woo-woo, right?
Hmm.
And practicing that. So again, I think most coaches use that. I think most consultants use that. I think
Hmm.
even managers and leaders use that with their teams. It's when you go beyond that. It's when you go into the unconscious, into the emotional, tapping into the emotion, tapping into the somatic, tapping into and the behavioral, right? And then encompassing all of those together and then creating a freaking bomb of change that is like the whoa. Like we
Yeah.
have little breakthroughs and then all of a sudden there's an explosion and then you're like, oh my God, let me implement the explosion and then like another set of breakthroughs, another explosion. So think of
Mhm.
this as like a step, like a staircase, right, where you have the staircase going up and then you have the base and then another staircase going up and then you have the base. That is essentially the process
Mhm.
of us in life as we go through our mini breakthroughs, massive breakthrough, implementation, mini breakthroughs, massive breakthroughs, implementation, and it's
Mhm.
ongoing. And that's why
Absolutely.
it's so important for us as coaches to have coaches.
Oh, yeah. To level up our skill as well. But
Yeah,
even just for us, because at every point in our journey, we're going to be confronted with something different. And it might be something that's coming back for us to heal or to um, break the pattern in a new way.
yeah,
But it might be something brand new because as we evolve, as we, continue on in our journey, things will come up.
yeah.
And like we said
You
in the
know,
very beginning, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So when you say it could be brand new, the
Yeah,
situation might be brand new, but the pattern's usually the same.
that is true. If we
You know
don't
what I
break the
mean?
pattern, if we don't
Yeah,
address it, it's going to keep coming back in new
yeah.
situations.
So the circumstance can be
Mhm.
different, but because of, again, always the path of least resistance, we always go back to the baseline because that's what we have years and years of conditioning, right?
Yeah.
So unless you have someone there to support you and help you through it, it's very easy to be like, oh, new situation. Oh, okay, path of least resistance is right here. Let me tackle this pattern and place it here and see what happens.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
oh, what happened? That wasn't supposed to happen. You're
Exactly.
like, oh, mission, abort, abort. Um,
Abort mission. Yeah. Which again,
but
I think is so important that we have someone, a coach, who is able to identify or help us see these patterns and help us get to a place where we can finally break them, break the cycle for good, so that
yeah,
we're no longer confronted with these type of situations
yeah.
and
And I
reoccurring
think,
patterns. Mhm.
yeah, I think it's also important to mention because I know coaching can be a bit of an investment for many
Mm.
people. So, you know, the key here isn't to go out and hire a coach, but it's at least to open yourself up to people who have different perspectives. Because
Yes.
if you're always with the same train of thought, same way of thinking, it's always going to be the same thing. So if coaching isn't something that's viable for you, then at least surround yourself with people that challenge your thoughts so
Hmm.
that you can explore different avenues of approaching a situation. So you're not stuck in that same pattern. I just wanted to throw that out there because I know investments can be a little bit of soft top or touchy topic for people.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, that's a good point. You can
yeah.
start by just, looking at your surroundings. Are the people around you helping you to get closer to your goal, or are they keeping you stuck in those old patterns and that old identity?
Oh my God, girl, like I went through a purge like last month, like with the people that I was surrounded with. I mean, I even told you about my purging with my apartment.
Yeah.
But even like with the people that I'm surrounding myself with, like, are these people really being supportive of my growth? And if
Yeah.
not, why are they around? Like, why I don't have to be their, their main person. Like if it's not reciprocated, I also need to make sure that my cup is filled.
Yeah,
And that is it's not being mean, it's just making sure that you're practicing self-love and self-care. So
absolutely.
yeah, so it's so important to like really make sure that the people that you're surrounded with are there to elevate you and make sure that you expand and not stay in the same old patterns.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so easy to get caught up because change is scary, even when it comes to changing relationships or the people around you. If they've been there for a long time, there's
Yeah.
a sense of guilt maybe in saying that, like, okay, this is no longer a relationship that I want to nurture because it no longer works for me. There's a lot that comes with that. So
Yeah, for
this is just,
sure.
yeah, just an invitation to observe for now, just to be aware, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it doesn't mean like purging completely. I mean, I'm kind of like a cut, go.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that people have to do it the same way I do. But you can limit the level of interaction, and how deep you go with that person. Some people can be like more surface level friendships. And honestly, if you think about it, truly, I mean, I could probably count in one hand the people that know my deepest, darkest secrets, and
Yeah.
many acquaintances, but really
Yeah.
maybe five, and that's including family members.
Yeah. Agreed. And as we get older too, I feel like that circle gets smaller intentionally.
Yeah. Well, our list,
Yeah.
our list of shit shows also gets larger. I don't know if I want to tell everyone my story.
Good point. Good point. Yeah. Valid. Very valid. Yeah. Definitely.
Only a
But I
select few get to experience that side of me.
they have to earn their place and their trust in the circle.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or usually it's because they're there with you
Oh,
on those
true. Yeah.
adventures. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it creates that trauma bond. You're like, okay, now we're friends forever. This has connected us.
Exactly.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's so funny.
Yeah. So overall, I think, the experience of continuing to be coached or having this information available to us and this practice available to us is really something that, what's the word I want to use? So having the
Mm.
experience is something that's so valuable that you can't even put a price tag on it. I
It's
know
priceless.
it's priceless. Thank you. That's what I was trying to say. Like, what is the word I'm using here? Um, in the sense of I think, there's an example here of two people who have been coaching for a few years, but still have healing work to do,
Yeah.
still have more to learn
Yeah.
because we're open to it. That's a big difference too.
Yeah.
I think we're open to the experience. We're open to wanting to continue to do this work for ourselves and bring the best to our clients.
Hmm.
And there's a level of responsibility there too, of like not settling for just being like, okay, I've learned everything I needed to, and now let's just coach for the rest of my life. It's like, no, I can continue to learn, I can continue to experience. There are things that we can continue to evolve together with, right?
Yeah, and I think it's also I 100% agree with you, but and I think it's also about us walking the talk.
Oh, yeah,
If
absolutely.
if we expect people to invest in themselves and we're not investing in our own personal growth, that expectation is kind of,
Mm.
hypocritical.
Yeah.
So, and I pride myself in investing in my personal growth and
Hmm.
spending money and maybe saying no to vacations just so that I can say yes to this. Because a vacation I'll be left with the memories, great. But this knowledge that I'm gaining, I can take with me for the rest of my life. And not only that, but I can pay it forward and help other people expand and evolve and
Yeah.
ultimately, like, to not to get too kumbaya, but just make this world a better place, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's
So
what we want. And seeing the effect that it can have and how amazing this work can be, just witnessing ourselves and people within the program, like me too. I want the whole world to experience this. Like,
yeah,
imagine if everyone had this level of self-awareness and level of ability to navigate emotions and break patterns and be this like higher version of themselves that they truly want to be and stop holding back. Stop like doing things just because everybody else says that that's what you should do, right? Like really to be in your truth and authentic self and to just show up unapologetically. Like the world would be so different. So different.
yeah. I think I agree. I think also it's um more just simply having curiosity for beyond the current. For
Hmm.
beyond the current experience. It's I wouldn't even say like, oh, for someone to reach a higher level of X, I think is just being curious of there being something more, something greater ahead of them. I
Yeah.
think if anyone or if we were all able to entertain life with a little more curiosity, I think so much more could be achieved, right? Because once you close off or block off curiosity,
Mhm.
that's essentially saying that I already know.
Yeah.
I know already. I don't need to find out more. Well,
Yeah.
really? Like, well, let's explore that because how?
How
I
do you
mean,
know
if you're
everything
saying
already?
I already know, that already tells me that you don't, because the more you
Yeah.
know, the less you know, right?
Hmm.
So I'd be curious to just again curious to explore that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
just very curious. I think everyone should practice a little more curiosity and compassion to allow for
Agreed.
greater understanding not only of others but of self.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Curiosity and compassion.
love it.
Love it too.
Yeah, let's make that a slogan.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's join forces for
Yeah,
curiosity and
exactly.
compassion. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Love. Danielle, always a joy chatting with you. This
You
was
too, Sabrina.
such a great conversation. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being vulnerable and
Of
joining me in
course.
my vulnerability, inviting me to be curious and vulnerable as well.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. I'm so grateful and honored to have been a part of this podcast. Truly, such a blessing to be able to share this moment with you.
Thank you. So, everyone, reach out to Danielle. Her information will be in the show notes, but tell us quickly
Mhm.
if you have any programs available or your one-on-one coaching offers,
Yep.
anything.
I have a U2U coaching program that is either in group or one-on-one sessions. If anyone's interested or curious about diving deeper into the unseen to unforgettable, that's what it stands for. Let me know. It's essentially helping women 30 or over break free from limiting beliefs or obstacles that have stopped them from achieving their goals. And chances are the goal that you're reaching for is probably not the one that you really want. So if you want to explore that a little bit more, I'd love to hear from you.
Yes, I am intrigued.
Intrigued.
Just that line, I'm
Let's
intrigued.
go. Let's go.
What do you mean that goal is not the one I'm really wanting for? What do you mean?
Call to find out.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I,
love
I
it.
do truly hope that that I hear from some of your audiences. My
Mhm.
goal is to leave this world a better place
Yeah,
than I came into it, and only able to do that by connecting with people. So
beautiful. Well said. Thank you, Danielle.
thank you.